Hello, America and the world. Welcome to another episode of Life After Lockup. And Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to 2010. Before we get started, we want to remind you of our ex-offender support group that meets every first Monday at 5:30 at the W.C. Young Community Center. That's every first Monday at 5:30 at the W.C. Young Community Center. Also want to remind you of our Lifesaver classes that take place every Tuesday at 11:30 at Christ Temple Church. These classes are designed for anyone that has any life-controlling issues. After 8 weeks, you get a certificate of completion. You can take these certificates to the court to show the judge that you are working on getting yourself together. You can also take these certificates to the food stamp office to show them that you are trying to get some things better for your life. So we want to remind you of that. If you have any further if you need any further information, please contact us at 270-575-3823 or visit us on our email address, which is lifecommunities@bellsouth.net. If you have any type of comments, any type of concerns, please give us a call. Let us know if you want to be a guest on this program. We want to go right into our program. We're excited today. We have a guest all the way from Lake City, Florida, Minister Margaret Green. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you for being with us today. We're excited. We've been talking to you so much about everything. We're just excited to have you here with us today. And because this show and this program is called Life After Lockup, everybody knows that you've been to prison or jail or something. So we want to just find out basically how you end up getting there. You can share as much as you want to share with us.
Okay.
How did you end up going to prison? It was federal prison, right?
Right, federal
right.
prison.
Okay. How did you end up going there? How much time did you get when you went?
How I ended up there was got involved with the wrong individuals.
Okay.
I was in a drug conspiracy case.
Okay.
And as a result of that, I was sentenced to 15 years
15.
in the federal system. I ended up doing 11 years.
Wow.
And
Hold
then
on
I was
just a minute now. 11 years from a 15 year.
Yes.
Because now what they tell me is once the federal people give you time, you have to do that amount of time, right?
85% of your time.
85%. So it's
Right.
11 years, 85%?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So what?
Through the grace of God, I was given an immediate release on March 3rd of 2008.
Oh, wow.
Right.
March
So-
3rd of 2008.
March 3rd, right.
My goodness.
And that was the grace of God. There was a overturned law in the federal system involving crack cocaine cases.
Oh.
And I say it's God. I give God all the glory.
Oh, yeah.
You
Gotta
know,
be God.
whatever happened in the system itself, I know that God was the one. His hand was in it. And as a result, I was given favor from my judge, and he granted me an immediate release.
My goodness,
And so-
immediate release.
Immediate release.
And so it's only been almost 3 years now.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah,
8,
March
10.
March
That's
of this
right,
year,
almost-
2010,
almost
will
2
make 2
years.
years that I've been home.
My goodness. Okay, so you did 11 years.
I did 11 years, 8 months.
Okay, now that's wow, that's amazing to me. I did 3 in the state prison. It almost drove me crazy. How did you do 11 years? How was that?
One day at a time.
Okay.
What happened was I didn't know God. I didn't know Christ before, and I have to give God the honor and the glory for what he's done in my life. Prior to even having my case, I didn't know God. I didn't have a relationship with God. When I got incarcerated, I was in a county jail for a short season, and at that time, I had nowhere to go. I had no one else to turn to. So I decided to pick up a Bible, and I began to read, and I began to study the scriptures. And as I began to read more and more, I began to see myself for who I really was. I wasn't the person that I thought I was.
Okay.
I realized that I needed help. I realized that I needed change. I came to the end of myself. There was nowhere else for me to go. And so through that journey in the county jail, that prepared me to go to prison, I say. So I had gotten a little bit of a root inside of me and realized, okay, if I'm going to do this time, with the negative situation that I'm in, the depressing environment, and you know, the overwhelming circumstances, having a 15-year sentence over my head, then I needed to have some kind of support or comfort so I wouldn't lose my mind. So when I actually transitioned into the prison system, I had that to hold on to.
Right.
And so basically how I made it through the journey was holding on to the promise of God. I remember God gave me a promise when I first, and I didn't know the word of God, but he led me to Jeremiah 29:11 through 14. And it says how God has a plan for you. And through that plan, if you seek him with all your heart, then he will turn back your captivity. You know, and I took that as a personal promise to myself. And so year after year after year after year, I waited and I believed and I trusted in God. But one of the things that I said to God before I left prison was, I said, don't let me go home. Don't let me leave this place until I am ready to go.
Wow. Wow. That's a powerful statement to make to God right there. I mean, after making a statement like that, what?
Yeah, because he takes you up on your word.
Right, exactly.
And I put motions into the court and I was denied. And a motion after motion, I was denied, you know, a release from prison. And I began, you know, and initially you get angry, you get frustrated, you get upset, you begin to get, you know, desperate. But the thing that I've learned is God will keep you if you want to be kept.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so I would always ask God, help me, because I'm in an environment where it's not hard for you to get involved in a lot of criminal activity, even behind prison walls.
Of course, of course.
So I had to constantly ask God to keep me, which meant that I had to isolate myself even while I was incarcerated. I had to pick and choose the people who I would involve myself with. I had to pick and choose the individuals who I allowed to influence my life, because those people who you follow have a great influence on you. And I knew that if I didn't, you know, some people would take it the wrong way and they would say, well, you're being stuck up. And no, it's not that. It's that I have to protect myself from the environment that I'm in, because if I don't, then I'll be swallowed up by it. And I'll end up leaving the system and become worse than when I actually got in.
Exactly.
So I thank God so much. Another thing that I thank God for was placing people in my life who loved me unconditionally. Whether that be inmates, you know, a best friend of mine that served a portion of time with me even after she was released was Denise Hetzberger. And she ministered so much to me. Even though she thinks that I ministered to her, she gave into me because she believed in me. You know, I could name so many names. I could name, you know, a woman who's had a great spiritual influence at the end of my incarceration, which her name was Wilma Shaw, Pastor Wilma Shaw. And so there's so many individuals, you know, my family, my sister Sharon Brown and her husband, how they took me in after my incarceration. When I let God have control, he orchestrated everything that I needed in my life.
Yeah, he'll do that.
And that's exactly what he did.
My goodness. Any times that you felt like giving up at all, like, I don't know, even committing suicide? I had a 12-year prison sentence. When I first went in, I was just going to take my life.
Right. Well, see, I to be honest with you,
yes,
I didn't want to take my life. I said, God, just go ahead and take me. I'm not going to do it myself. I don't like pain.
So you didn't want,
no, I don't want to feel the pain of that. You know, I'm not going to take any pills, because what if it doesn't work? Then I have to suffer. I didn't want to suffer anymore, and I was already suffering. But yeah, of course, you do want to give up. What I did when I found out that I had reached that place where I wanted to give up, which is something that you experience on a day-to-day basis if you don't keep your mind right, I started writing plays while I was in the prison system. And so what I would do is I would take scriptural references and I would create plays. I actually wrote about 8 plays throughout my incarceration, which we were able to put on in the prison system. And that was a ministry for me, because I was able to, you know, show the individuals who I was there with that Christ is relevant even today. Give them something positive to look at. You know, I did a play. The first play I ever wrote was on the Samaritan woman. And so it was a modern day version of it. And that was my way of giving to somebody else to take the focus off of my needs, take the focus off of what I was going through. And that's what helped me to make it through day to day, because people were encouraged by the things that they saw me do. And, you know, I believe, you know, that they probably thought I was doing a lot better than I actually was. But God is so powerful that if you know how to get on your knees and cry out to him, he'll make you look stronger than you actually are.
Yeah.
And that's what he did for me. And I give him all the glory.
My goodness.
I give him all the glory.
11 years, and God supernaturally
Released.
spit you right out of there.
Yeah.
Just spit you right out of there.
Right.
And how have you been in the last couple of years? How are you?
Okay. Wow. God is awesome. He hasn't stopped. He didn't leave me when he released me.
Oh.
You know, he really opened my eyes to see that your greatest challenge is ahead of you. You know, people think that prison is a great challenge, and it is.
It is.
It's more of an individual battle that you go through,
Right.
you know, because you want to be free.
Right, of course.
But then coming out, there's so much temptation.
Of course.
There are so many distractions
Yes.
that if you're really not rooted in a relationship with God, you will begin to substitute something else for what you had in the prison system.
Exactly.
So I realize now that I lean even harder on him because I don't ever want to sacrifice my relationship with him
Exactly.
for what is temporary in the earth today, because I know that the only reason why I made it through my experience was because of him.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So he's blessed me so much. I have a wonderful job. I work for a major satellite television company,
Wow.
doing technical support.
Wow.
He's blessed me with the marriage. He's blessed me with the home. He's blessed me with the vehicle. You know, he's given me everything that I've needed.
Wow.
You know, coming out of the prison system, things that people, you know, I heard horror stories. Well, you know, you come out, you still have a number, you know, you're not going to get a job. It's going to be different. It's going to be that. And one step at a time, like you said, one day at a time. I just said,
Exactly.
you know what, God, will I trust you with this?
Exactly.
You know, if you brought me this far and you brought me through the experience that I had, I'm going to have to believe in you. I'm going to have to believe that if I need a job, you will provide one for me, or you'll lead me in the direction. And one of the things that you have to learn, that I've learned, was you never give up.
Right, exactly.
You never give up.
Exactly.
You know, people are going to say no. Not everybody's going to like you.
That's true.
Not everybody's going to want to give you a chance.
That's true.
You know, but if you know who you are, God is my Abba.
Right.
He's my Father.
Right.
And he's in control of everything. You know, I see Jesus as my divine spouse. He's my husband.
Wow.
The Holy Spirit is my counselor. He's my teacher. He's my guide. If I follow the Trinity in life, even when man closes doors on me, God will reveal to me the door that is open.
Right, he'll do it.
And so this is what I had to learn in my experience. And even though prison should have made me bitter, because I was really sentenced unjustly, you know, having a conspiracy case, absolutely no evidence whatsoever against me. I was sentenced based upon the testimony of 4 individuals against me, okay? But the punishment didn't fit the crime, because prior to that, I didn't have a criminal history.
Oh,
so I was
really?
a first-time nonviolent offender. So that could have made me bitter.
Wow.
Coming through that experience.
That's making me mad just thinking about this.
You know, that could have really
goodness.
made me bitter. But as I got into the, you know, experience and I began to journey with God, I got an opportunity to see that, you know what, you had a lot of pride in your life. You had some unforgiveness in your life. You were dirty on the inside. You know, you were already bound before you even went into the prison system. You needed help.
And it's a blessing for God to be able to allow you to look at it
Yeah.
from that angle, because he's the only one that can help
Only
with the
one.
bitterness.
Only one.
Because one of the things that I, because I've had other people on this program that has told me some things that the system did
Right.
that was unjust.
Right.
And that's something that we have to deal with.
Right.
Being unjustly convicted, unjustly treated,
Right.
and unjustly sent to prison.
Right.
And it takes God.
Yes.
It takes God
Yes.
to not let you be in there so bitter.
Right.
Because here's what happens a lot of times. People that gets unjustly treated and gets unjustly sent to prison, they turn very bitter.
Right.
And they turn to drugs sometimes in prison, or they end up turning worse while they're in there because they're so full of hate.
Right.
that they
Right.
turn very bitter, and
Right.
their time is hard
Right, right.
because
right.
of the bitterness.
Right.
And even when they get released, they're so bitter
Right.
that they all they want to do is get somebody back.
Right, exactly, exactly, exactly.
And they end up getting catching another charge,
Right.
and end up going back to prison for a longer time
Right.
because of the unjust treatment.
Exactly.
So it takes God, if a person don't have some type of introduction to Him,
Right.
that unjust treatment would cause some serious bitterness.
Exactly.
So when you're telling me that you got sentenced to 15 years and you feel like that it wasn't as fair as it should have been,
Right, right.
that's the foundation of messing up the rest of your life.
Right, yeah. It could have.
It could have.
It could have. Because I was separated from 3 children. I had 3 children when I went to prison that were left behind. I thank God for my family, because if my family didn't take care of my children and I know that they were in a good place, then that would have been another weight or another burden or pressure that I would have had on me.
Of course.
I don't deny my guilt.
Right.
I was guilty.
Right.
I just didn't feel like the punishment fit the crime.
Of course. I understand that.
And so I had to also realize the part that I played
Of course.
in, ending up in prison.
Right, of course.
And it's sort of like, you don't make the decision when you decide to involve yourself with certain criminal activities or involve yourself with individuals who are criminals. You don't decide the outcome.
Right.
You already know that there are consequences
Exactly.
involved here.
Very good.
You see?
Yes,
And
very
so,
good.
so we have to face some realities within ourselves too. I believe a lot of the problem that we have when we get incarcerated, and I said this to my sisters while I was locked up, is we refuse to take the blame for our part.
Exactly.
Don't worry about what somebody else did. I was upset with my prosecutor. I was
course.
upset with the judge.
Of
I
course.
was upset with the individuals who had testified against me. But God had to show me that, Margaret, as long as you hold on to that bitterness and unforgiveness for them, they've gone on with their lives.
Exactly.
You're still sitting there miserable.
Exactly.
Will you live?
Right.
Because if you choose to live, I'll help you to live, even in this environment, And the first way that I learned how to live in that environment was to take the focus off of me. And always know that there's somebody else around me who's worse off than I am.
Exactly. Always.
When I wanted to feel pity because of the fact that, I didn't get a chance to see my children, I would look at somebody else who didn't know where their kids were. Their children were in foster care,
Yes.
and I would think that my situation was bad. And then I'd look at another sister and she had a life sentence, and I would say,
Wow.
so we need to, I think the greatest thing Christ does for anyone, if they really truly desire Him, is He helps them to take the focus off of themselves and put it on Him.
And that's the thing that keeps us moving.
Yes.
I like you said so many good things, because these are things that I also say when I go inside the prisons. And before we can ever move forward, we're going to have to take a look at the man in the mirror.
Right.
We're going to have to take a look at the reason, the real genuine reason why I'm in prison.
Right.
Not that I'm totally innocent. I might have had some unfair treatments. I might have had some things that were not legally right that helped to get me there,
Right.
but I did something.
Yes.
And when I can admit that I did something,
Yes.
that's the first step of getting some help for me.
Yes.
To be
Yes.
able to say, okay, God, I'm really guilty,
Right.
but
Right, right.
I still need some help.
Right, can you turn this thing around
Right,
now? I got
exactly.
myself in this mess. Can you
Right,
turn it around?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
God works His best miracles a lot of times in our messes.
Yes,
because,
He does.
Because we can make some serious messes.
Yes, we can.
And how old were your children when you went in?
When I went in, I had a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. Sorry, 5-month-old.
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 Wow.
Right. So they basically were raised without me. Something that I neglected to mention earlier was I was a fugitive for 2.5 years before I actually went into prison.
Okay.
So that was a time frame where there was a lot of separation, a lot of pain,
Of course.
a lot of pain, and I needed healing.
Of course.
I needed to be healed, and we don't like to get alone with ourselves.
Right.
We don't like to be by ourselves.
Right.
So even in prison, it's so easy to get involved in, so many things that can distract you from being by yourself. But if you truly want healing, you have to get alone with you.
Exactly.
You have to get to see your own heart. And the only person who can do that is God, because we will deceive ourselves and we'll think our heart is good and it's not.
And a lot of times we go through the motion in order to keep us from really taking a real good look at us.
Yes.
As long as we're busy,
Yes, busy.
we don't have to look at us. We can play dominoes, cards, and
Exactly.
get caught up in a lot of things,
Distracted.
distractions, and we never take a real good look at us.
Right.
And when we don't do that, we're setting ourselves up for failure once we get out, because you knew eventually that you were going to get out.
Yes.
Eventually.
I had to come out.
You had to come out.
I had a date.
Exactly, you had a date. And so you had to work on yourself. And it's just amazing to me. Now, do you have relationship with your children now?
Yes, I do. I have a relationship with my children. My daughter, I have a daughter who actually is estranged from me right now because she lives with a relative on her father's side of the family. But my middle daughter is still living with my sister, but she and I do have a relationship. My son, which is my oldest child, he lives with me, and so, and God slowly, the process is slow. That's the thing about us. We want God to do it instantaneously. We're like, God, okay, now line this thing up right away. But I understand that it doesn't work that way. It took a long time for me to understand that. So patience and a process. I had to learn that, okay, yes, God will restore all things in His time and in His way, but I have to be patient and let Him do it, because He's dealing with other hearts.
Exactly.
He's not just dealing with my desire and my will, but He's dealing with the will of other people. So it's a slow process in me having my life restored back to me, but it's being done.
It's being
and I
done.
thank God.
And God is He's awesome, because He can give you, the scripture says, to give you back the years that the locusts devoured.
Yes.
And He can give you back double for all the trouble. And God does that.
He sure does. He does.
I was even thinking, about the children. Sometimes our children get upset at us for leaving them like that.
Right.
And God, like you said earlier, God He has other hearts to deal with other than yours.
Right.
And they have to have some forgiveness in them for mom.
Right.
Because they were thrown into a situation they had no control over.
Right.
And it takes God to fix all of that.
It does. It does. And I'm so grateful to Him for my children, because of the fact that He's so good, and they're not bitter with me. They're not upset. They're not angry, And I believe that a large part of that is because of the fact that they grew up in loving environments. My family loved them, nurtured them, took care of them. Everything wasn't perfect, just like in my life while I was incarcerated. It wasn't perfect, but then what is?
Exactly.
Even when you think you're living a perfect life, everything is never going to be perfect.
It's not going to be.
As
long as we're here on this earth.
Right. So when we accept the fact that, there's imperfections in us, there's imperfections in the people that we love and the people that love us, and we allow ourselves and them to grow, give people room to grow. Like, even that's something that I'm working on right now, even with my son, whom I love dearly, my son Robert. And I have to give him room to grow.
Exactly.
Sometimes you come into an environment and you're mommy and you want to just lay it down. You know what I mean? This is how it's going to be, you know? And God keeps reminding me, dealing with my heart and telling me, Margaret, did I not let you grow? Did I not let you make mistakes? Are you not making mistakes today?
Exactly.
Exactly. And every day I show you patience and I show you grace and mercy. The greatest thing we can do is show others mercy, especially when we realize how much mercy we need.
And sometimes I think we forget about that. When I say we, people sometimes that have gone through things themselves and that have received so much mercy from God. Sometimes it is very difficult for us to show mercy to other people and show patience to other people, especially our children. Let me ask you this. I don't think I've asked anybody this on this program. A lot of times when men go to prison, there's a different feeling that men have with their children once they leave them. For a mother, how was that with you facing that much time with those small children like that, leaving them behind? How was that?
Okay, I can be so honest and say that I was never going to be a good mother to them without Christ.
Okay, very good.
So they were left in the care of individuals who knew how to love them the way they needed to be loved. My life was based on selfishness prior to my incarceration, and even though it hurt me to the core to have to leave my children. I don't believe that I ever was capable of being a good mother to them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And I can only be honest about my situation. I'm different from other people, you know. But when we think about it, the reality of it is, if I as a mother can commit a crime, then how much love do I really have for my child? Then there's some selfishness involved in my relationship towards them anyway.
You know, that is so powerful. And that is so powerful, because what you're saying is that if I'm going to be out there doing stuff, what I'm really not that concerned about them anyway, because what you had said earlier, the outcome, the consequences of when you get involved with wrongdoing, there are wrong consequences. So if I got these little ones here, I'm really not that concerned about them anyway. That is something right there that people really need to think about, because I look at men all the time and I tell them, when you're out there doing all of these things, you put yourself in a position to leave your children, to leave your family. Do you really care? And this is what you're saying. You know, I really didn't care that much about them anyway. I mean, you did to a certain degree.
I mean, but we're not really conscious. You know, getting in the real conscious of our understanding of who we are as a person, we begin to see when we get into these, you know, situations that did I really care that much? You know, unconditional love is so important. Especially coming from a father. My father died when I was 9 years old. But even up until that time, my father loved me unconditionally. My father validated who I was as a person. Because of my father's love for me, I was able to receive the love from Christ.
Okay, gotcha.
So that was a good thing for me, okay? My mother nurtured me. I thank God for my mother. My mother was not a Christian woman, but my mother raised me with morals and values.
Okay, stop right there, because what you kind of showed me something here, but we have probably about a minute and a half.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to just give out, just to tell somebody about your experience, or anything that you feel like that you want to say to somebody that's listening?
What I'd like to say is, this is something, you know, prison is not necessarily a physical location. You can be imprisoned in your thoughts. You can be imprisoned in your emotions. You can be imprisoned. You can be free on the outside and still be in a bondage. I still believe, based upon personal experience, that the only answer that the world needs is Jesus Christ. And that's all that I can say. If you don't seek him for yourself, you'll never know that he is the person who he has declared himself to be to the world. But he is the answer. Now, that doesn't mean that he gives you the answers. But he takes you on a journey with him of, first of all, discovering yourself, discovering who he is, and then discovering a life of walking with him. And so I would say that there is no situation that is so despairing, or there's nothing that should discourage you to the point where you feel like there is no hope. No matter how far down you find yourself, if you begin to look up, there is light.
Wow. You know, I thank God for you. Thank God
for you, Pastor
the
Walton.
experience that you had and been willing and able to share it with us. And I just wish you well during your remaining of the time that you are free and out and serving God. You do the best you can do, and keep looking up. And may God bless you. Thank you so much for watching Life After Lockup. We have had a wonderful time. You have a marvelous day.